Before cities rose in stone and empires claimed the earth, there was the desert, endless, unforgiving, and alive with the whispers of wind and sand. Arabia was more than a land, it was a crucible, a place where survival demanded courage, ingenuity, and vision. From these harsh sands emerged a people who would shape the course of history. The Arabs were traders, scholars, and travelers, their footsteps tracing invisible networks across deserts, rivers, and oceans. They transformed survival into civilization, turning caravans into conduits of commerce and marketplaces into centers of culture and learning. Trade was not merely the exchange of goods, it was the exchange of ideas, knowledge, and innovation. From frankincense and myrrh to silk, gold, and spices, Arab merchants built bridges between continents long before modern trade existed. Alongside their wealth traveled the wisdom of civilizations, shaping science, mathematics, medicine, and art. Faith and ethics guided their endeavors, contracts were sacred, trust was currency, and every transaction reflected principles as enduring as the desert itself. Through this fusion of commerce, scholarship, and culture, the Arabs built a civilization that would echo across centuries. This is the story of Arabia, of deserts transformed into cities, of trade routes that became arteries of civilization, of a people whose vision, knowledge, and enterprise shaped the world. This is the legacy of Arab history, business, and culture, a testament to the enduring power of human ambition guided by wisdom. Before the world learned to measure time in coins, before cities knew the weight of stone, the desert spoke in whispers of wind and sand. Arabia, vast and unforgiving, was not merely land, it was a crucible. Life here was forged through endurance, ingenuity, and trade. The Arabs were custodians of the desert, nomads whose footsteps traced invisible lines connecting oases, wells, and hidden valleys. They understood that survival was not solitary, it was a network, a chain of trust, of exchange. From this harshness emerged the first merchants, travelers, and storytellers, the first bearers of civilization. Trade was not optional, it was lifeblood. Frankincense, myrrh, and rare spices carried the wealth of kingdoms across shifting dunes. Merchants became legends, their caravans threading the desert like veins carrying life. Their knowledge of the land, the stars, and the seasons was unmatched. Through their journeys, the desert became a map, and Arabia became a bridge between the known and the unknown. Civilization was born not in palaces, but in these networks of exchange. Here, in the open air of the desert, Arabs learned the language of commerce, the art of negotiation, and the power of reputation. Every transaction carried weight, every agreement was sacred. Trust was currency more precious than gold. As trade flourished, so did settlements. Oasis towns transformed into hubs of commerce, their markets echoing with voices from distant lands. The kingdom of Sheber rose, a testament to vision and enterprise. Here, merchants from Africa, India, and beyond converged, bringing silk, gold, and knowledge. The air was rich with the scent of spices, the hum of negotiation, and the rhythm of cultural exchange. These early networks of trade were more than commerce. They were the arteries of civilization. Through them, ideas flowed as freely as goods. Mathematics, astronomy, and early medicine traveled alongside incense and gems. Arabs became not only traders of goods, but of knowledge, linking continents and shaping the foundations of a global society. It was in this crucible that Arab civilization learned to thrive. Survival demanded resilience, but prosperity required vision. From the shifting sands, a culture emerged that valued learning, ethics, and innovation. The lessons of the desert, the necessity of collaboration, the sanctity of trust, the power of foresight, became the principles that guided the rise of cities, the growth of empires, and the birth of a civilization that would echo across centuries. The 7th century dawned over Arabia with a force that would forever change the course of history. The desert, long a place of survival and trade, became the stage for a new unity, a new vision. From the city of Mecca arose a message that would bind tribes, cultures, and lands under a shared purpose. Islam was more than faith, it was a framework for society, law, and commerce. It wove together ethics, morality, and human connection, shaping the lives of people who had long wandered in fragmented tribes. The Kaaba, already a center of pilgrimage and trade, became a symbol of unity, a hub where merchants and travelers, pilgrims and scholars converged. Trade under this new order did not diminish, it expanded. The principles of honesty, fairness, and mutual respect became the foundation of commercial life. Contracts were honored, credit was extended with trust, and markets thrived. Arab merchants, guided by faith and ethics, traveled further, traded smarter, and carried ideas as skillfully as goods. The cities of Arabia began to transform. Medina became a center of learning and governance, a city where commerce, scholarship, and religion intertwined. Roads that were once paths through the sand became arteries of connection, linking desert oases to urban centers. Caravans now carried not just incense and spices, but culture, law, and the seeds of civilization itself. In this era, Arabs did not merely survive. They organized, innovated, and laid the foundations for a civilization that would stretch across continents. The desert had taught them endurance, faith taught them purpose, and commerce taught them the power of human connection. Through this union, the world began to feel the first echoes of a civilization that would change history. From the heart of Arabia, the reach of Arab civilization began to stretch beyond the desert. Cities rose, vibrant with life and commerce. Mecca and Medina had become more than religious centers. They were hubs where knowledge, goods, and ideas converged. Merchants sailed the Red Sea and the Persian Gulf, linking Arabia to Africa, India, and the lands beyond. The Arab merchant was no longer merely a traveler. He was a bridge between worlds. His caravans carried gold, spices, silk, and incense, but they also carried the wisdom of cultures, the mathematics of distant lands, the astronomy of the ancients, and the stories of civilizations far beyond the dunes. Through these exchanges, Arabia became the pulse of a network that spanned continents. Markets thrived on trust and reputation. Every transaction was a lesson in ethics, a testament to the principles that guided Arab society. Banking and credit, sophisticated and reliable, allowed trade to flourish across deserts and oceans alike. From small souks to sprawling marketplaces, commerce became an instrument of culture, a vehicle for learning, and a means to shape society itself. Scholarship grew alongside trade. Libraries and centers of learning emerged, preserving and expanding knowledge from every corner of the known world. Mathematics, medicine, philosophy, and astronomy traveled with merchants, shaping a civilization that valued intellect as much as wealth. The Arab world became a crucible where the wisdom of the past was preserved, refined, and transmitted to future generations. Through faith, commerce, and scholarship, Arab civilization expanded its reach. The lessons of the desert, resilience, foresight, and cooperation, combined with innovation and ethics, creating a society capable of extraordinary achievement. By the end of this era, Arabia was no longer a land of mere survival. It was a civilization in motion, a network of cities, trade, and culture that would influence the world for centuries to come. By the 8th century, the Arab world had evolved from desert tribes and trading oases into a civilization of cities, scholars, and visionaries. Baghdad rose on the banks of the Tigris, a jewel of human ambition, designed to be the heart of knowledge, trade, and culture. It was a city that would define an era. The Abbasid Caliphate brought with it a vision of learning and innovation. Scholars gathered in libraries and academies, translating the wisdom of Greece, Persia, and India. Mathematics was refined, astronomy mapped the stars, medicine advanced beyond anything the world had seen before. Knowledge became a treasure as sought after as gold or spices. Commerce expanded in tandem. Arab merchants dominated both land and sea. The Silk Road, the Red Sea, and the Persian Gulf became arteries of wealth, carrying silk, spices, precious metals, and rare goods. But alongside the goods traveled ideas, philosophy, literature, science, and art. Arabs were no longer just traders, they were the connectors of civilizations, the vessels through which human achievement flowed across continents. Markets thrived under this new order. Souks were alive with voices from every corner of the known world. Banking, credit systems, and standardized measures allowed trade to flourish with unprecedented efficiency. Merchants were respected not only for their wealth, but for their wisdom, honor, and ability to unite distant lands in the web of commerce. This was a civilization where intellect and enterprise were inseparable. Scholars debated by candlelight as merchants calculated profits, and artisans transformed raw materials into works of beauty. The Arab world had become a crucible of human advancement, proving that the fusion of commerce, culture, and knowledge could propel society to heights the world had never before witnessed. The influence of Arab civilization now reached beyond deserts and rivers, stretching across seas and continents. Arab sailors mastered the winds and currents of the Indian Ocean, navigating with precision and courage. Ports in Oman, Yemen, and the eastern coast of Africa became thriving centers of commerce, connecting Arabia to India, Southeast Asia, and even China. Trade was no longer confined to goods. It carried culture, ideas, and innovation. Arab merchants brought not only silk, spices, and precious metals, but also mathematics, medicine, literature, and philosophy to distant lands. Through this network, the Arab world became the linchpin of a global economy long before modern trade existed. Cities flourished as centers of wealth and knowledge. Baghdad, Damascus, Cairo, and Cordoba became hubs of learning, where scholars, merchants, and artisans coexisted in vibrant urban life. Libraries stored the wisdom of civilizations past, while observatories mapped the stars, and medical schools advanced the understanding of the human body. Every corner of these cities reflected the fusion of intellect, art, and commerce. Arab civilization thrived on principles of trust, ethics, and innovation. Merchants were respected for their honesty, scholars for their insight, and artisans for their skill. The desert lessons of resilience and foresight had evolved into an urban sophistication that balanced ambition with morality, wealth with knowledge, and trade with culture. By the height of the Golden Age, Arabia was more than a land of sand and oasis. It was the beating heart of a civilization whose influence shaped the world. Knowledge, commerce, and culture flowed like rivers, connecting continents, bridging societies, and leaving a legacy that would endure through centuries. The Arab world had become a testament to what humanity could achieve when intellect and enterprise, ethics and ambition were united in purpose. Arab civilization had reached a moment of unparalleled brilliance. Knowledge was no longer confined to the few. It was cultivated, refined, and shared. Scholars in Baghdad, Cairo, and Cordoba unlocked the mysteries of the universe, exploring mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and engineering. Every discovery was a step forward for humanity, a bridge between the past and the future. Algebra emerged as a tool not only for calculation, but for understanding the order of the cosmos. Astronomers mapped the heavens, charting the stars and planets with precision that would guide travelers and sailors for centuries. Physicians documented diseases, formulated treatments, and established hospitals that cared for the sick with methods far beyond their time. Trade and innovation were inseparable. Arab merchants funded exploration, architecture, and scholarship. Caravans carried not only goods, but instruments, manuscripts, and maps. Maritime routes across the Indian Ocean connected Arabia to Africa, India, and beyond, while overland roads threaded the deserts with commerce and culture. Every transaction, every voyage was a conduit for knowledge. Art and architecture reflected this sophistication. Cities rose with intricate designs, adorned with mosaics, domes, and minarets that spoke of both faith and mastery. Calligraphy transformed language into visual art. Markets, libraries, and observatories coexisted, each a testament to a civilization that saw no division between commerce, culture, and intellect. Arab civilization had become a crucible of human advancement. Survival in the desert had taught endurance, faith had taught purpose, commerce had taught connection, and now innovation and scholarship proved that a society rooted in ethics, knowledge, and enterprise could shape the world in ways no sword or empire alone ever could. The reach of Arab civilization now extended across deserts, rivers, and oceans, weaving a web of commerce, culture, and innovation that spanned continents. Arab sailors mastered the monsoon winds, guiding ships laden with silk, spices, and precious metals to the ports of India, East Africa, and Southeast Asia. Every voyage carried not only goods, but ideas. Mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and philosophy traveled alongside cargo, shaping distant civilizations. Trade routes were arteries of civilization. Caravans across the desert, dhows across the seas, and bustling markets in every city formed a network that connected the known world. Arab merchants became the trusted intermediaries between cultures, bridging languages, religions, and economies. Their reputation for honesty, fairness, and ingenuity ensured that commerce thrived even across vast distances. Innovation and knowledge were inseparable from trade. Observatories guided sailors, libraries preserved ancient wisdom, and scholars wrote texts that would later influence Europe and Asia. Hospitals, schools, and marketplaces became centers of learning, demonstrating that prosperity and intellect could flourish together. Every achievement was a reflection of a civilization that valued ethics as much as enterprise. Arab cities were living proof of this synthesis. Baghdad, Cordoba, Cairo, and Damascus were not merely urban centers. They were laboratories of culture. Art, architecture, science, and commerce coexisted in harmony, creating a society where every citizen, from merchant to scholar, contributed to the greater legacy of civilization. By the end of this era, the Arab world had proven that survival was only the beginning. Through vision, ethics, knowledge, and enterprise, a society that once relied on desert winds and caravan trails had become a global force. The legacy of Arab civilization, its trade, innovation, and culture, would echo across centuries, a testament to the power of human ambition guided by wisdom. As the Arab world matured, its influence spread across seas and continents, shaping the early foundations of a truly global civilization. Maritime trade became as vital as the desert caravans of old. Arab sailors, skilled in navigation and the rhythms of the monsoon, connected Arabia to Africa, India, and even the distant shores of Southeast Asia. Every voyage expanded the reach of commerce and culture. Every port became a point of exchange for goods, ideas, and knowledge. Arab merchants were more than traders. They were architects of networks. Their ships carried silk, spices, incense, and precious metals, but they also carried the wisdom of centuries. Astronomical charts, mathematical treatises, and medical texts flowed alongside cargo, transforming distant lands with knowledge that would endure for generations. Trade became the vessel through which civilization itself traveled. African kingdoms, the Indian subcontinent, and the islands of Southeast Asia were drawn into this web. Arab traders established relationships based on trust, fairness, and shared prosperity. Markets thrived not only on wealth but on reputation, and merchants became valued intermediaries between cultures. Their reach was vast, yet it was anchored in principles as old as the desert: honesty, foresight, and the sanctity of agreements. Urban centers reflected this integration. Cities like Cairo, Aden, and Muscat became cosmopolitan hubs, where merchants, scholars, and artisans coexisted in vibrant, interconnected societies. Libraries preserved the wisdom of the ancients, while observatories and schools advanced knowledge. The Arab world demonstrated that commerce and culture were inseparable, that trade was not merely an exchange of goods, but an exchange of civilization itself. Through these networks, the Arabs reshaped the world. Their influence spread far beyond the sands of Arabia, carrying with it the principles, ethics, and knowledge that had transformed a desert society into a global force. By the height of the Arab maritime era, the seas had become highways of civilization. From the ports of Arabia, ships sailed to the coasts of Africa, India, and Southeast Asia, carrying not only spices, silk, and precious metals, but the essence of Arab innovation, culture, and knowledge. Every voyage strengthened the bonds between distant peoples and transformed trade into a channel of global influence. Arab merchants became the linchpins of this interconnected world. Their integrity, foresight, and mastery of commerce allowed them to navigate not only oceans but cultures. Markets in Zanzibar, Calicut, and Malacca thrived under their guidance. Goods were exchanged, but so were ideas. Astronomy, medicine, mathematics, and philosophy flowed as freely as silk or gold. The Arab world had become the axis around which global trade and knowledge revolved. Cities reflected this extraordinary synthesis. Cairo, Aden, Muscat, and Zanzibar were not just centers of commerce. They were incubators of culture. Libraries preserved centuries of wisdom. Scholars debated the nature of the universe. Artisans shaped beauty from stone, metal, and fabric. Commerce funded learning, and learning enhanced commerce. Together, they propelled society to heights that few civilizations had reached. Through these networks, Arab civilization left an enduring mark on the world. Africa, Asia, and even Europe felt the influence of Arab trade, scholarship, and culture. The lessons of the desert, resilience, foresight, and ethical conduct had evolved into the guiding principles of global commerce. Knowledge and wealth traveled hand in hand, proving that a society grounded in ethics and enterprise could shape history itself. The Arabs had transformed from desert nomads into navigators of oceans, masters of markets, and bearers of civilization. Through their trade, innovation, and culture, they had built a legacy that would endure across continents and centuries, a testament to the enduring power of vision guided by wisdom. As the Arab world expanded its reach across deserts and oceans, it entered an era of intellectual brilliance unmatched in history. Knowledge became the true wealth of society, and scholars, physicians, and inventors transformed observation into understanding, experimentation into discovery. Science and commerce, once separate, now moved hand in hand, each fueling the other. Arab mathematicians refined algebra, geometry, and arithmetic, creating tools that would guide traders, architects, and engineers for generations. Astronomers mapped the heavens with precision, providing navigators the means to traverse oceans and deserts alike. Medicine advanced with systematic study, hospitals emerged as centers of healing, and physicians documented diseases, treatments, and surgical techniques that were centuries ahead of their time. Architecture reflected the sophistication of the era. Cities blossomed with intricate designs, soaring minarets, domes, and palaces. Bridges spanned rivers, aqueducts carried water, and streets thrived with markets that were the lifeblood of culture and commerce. Calligraphy and mosaics transformed language into art, turning every building into a testament to knowledge, faith, and innovation. Trade remained the engine of this brilliance. Caravans and ships carried rare goods alongside instruments, manuscripts, and maps. Every merchant became a conduit for civilization, linking distant lands while fostering cultural exchange. Knowledge traveled with gold, spices, and silk, spreading ideas as widely as trade itself. Through this union of intellect, commerce, and innovation, the Arab world had reached a new pinnacle. Survival in the desert had taught endurance. Faith had provided vision, trade had built networks, and knowledge had transformed those networks into engines of civilization. In this era, Arabs proved that true power lies not only in wealth or conquest, but in the capacity to observe, to think, and to create. The brilliance of Arab civilization now radiated across continents. Innovations in science, medicine, and engineering were carried along trade routes, reaching Africa, India, and Europe, shaping societies far beyond the desert sands. Arab inventions, compasses, astrolabes, surgical instruments, and sophisticated water systems transformed daily life and exploration, leaving a legacy that would endure for centuries. Hospitals became centers of learning as much as healing, where physicians trained students in anatomy, diagnosis, and treatment. Scholars wrote encyclopedias that cataloged the knowledge of the ancient world while expanding it with new discoveries. Libraries preserved manuscripts from Greece, Persia, and India, translating them into Arabic and making knowledge accessible to all who sought it. Commerce continued to fuel this progress. Caravans and ships moved not only goods but instruments, maps, and ideas. Arab merchants, trusted for their integrity and foresight, became the conduits through which knowledge spread. A trading route was more than a path for wealth. It was a bridge for civilization itself. Architecture and art reflected this intellectual flowering. Cities rose with minarets and domes that touched the sky, adorned with mosaics, calligraphy, and intricate designs. Streets hummed with the activity of merchants, artisans, and scholars. Every building, every market, every observatory stood as a testament to a civilization that valued both beauty and intellect, commerce and culture. Through science, trade, and culture, the Arab world demonstrated that civilization is more than survival or conquest. It is the cultivation of knowledge, the sharing of ideas, and the advancement of society. From desert oases to ocean ports, from libraries to marketplaces, Arabs had built a legacy that would endure for centuries, a civilization whose light would guide the world long after its cities and caravans had been etched into history. As centuries passed, the Arab world's influence continued to ripple across continents, shaping trade, culture, and ideas far beyond its borders. Desert caravans had evolved into vast networks of commerce, while ships plied oceans connecting Arabia to Africa, India, and Europe. Arab merchants became the linchpins of a global economy, trusted not only for their goods but for their integrity, foresight, and vision. The cities of the Arab world had matured into centers of civilization. Cairo, Baghdad, Damascus, and Cordoba thrived as hubs where commerce, scholarship, and culture intersected. Markets were alive with the exchange of rare spices, silk, precious metals, and exotic goods, while ideas flowed just as freely. Mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and philosophy traveled alongside commodities, spreading knowledge and shaping societies across continents. Art, architecture, and literature reflected this golden synthesis. Minarets and domes soared above cities, adorned with intricate mosaics and calligraphy that transformed stone into stories. Palaces, libraries, and observatories stood as monuments to intellect and creativity. The Arab world had mastered the art of civilization, where commerce, culture, and scholarship were inseparable, each enhancing the other. Through these achievements, Arab civilization became a bridge between worlds. Africa, Asia, and Europe were touched by its trade, its ideas, and its innovations. The lessons of the desert, resilience, foresight, and collaboration, had evolved into principles that guided global commerce and culture. Arabs had transformed from nomads into architects of civilization, leaving a legacy that would endure through centuries. By the later centuries, the Arab world had firmly established itself as a cornerstone of global civilization. Its networks of trade, scholarship, and culture had woven a web connecting continents, ensuring that the knowledge, goods, and ideas of Arabia reached the farthest corners of the known world. Africa, India, Europe, and Asia all felt the influence of Arab merchants, scholars, and innovators. Trade remained the lifeblood of this enduring civilization. Ships and caravans carried not only spices, silk, and precious metals, but instruments, manuscripts, and ideas that would shape the future. Arab merchants were recognized as diplomats, negotiators, and preservers of trust. Markets flourished not merely as centers of commerce, but as forums of cultural and intellectual exchange. Every transaction carried lessons of ethics, foresight, and human connection. The intellectual and artistic achievements of the Arab world continued to resonate. Libraries safeguarded centuries of knowledge, while observatories, schools, and hospitals preserved and expanded human understanding. Architecture and art celebrated beauty, faith, and intellect. Cities were living testaments to a civilization that had mastered the harmony of commerce, culture, and science. Even as empires rose and fell, the legacy of the Arab world endured. Its contributions to mathematics, astronomy, medicine, literature, and trade became the foundation upon which future civilizations would build. The Arabs had transformed from desert wanderers into architects of global civilization, proving that vision, knowledge, and ethical enterprise could shape the course of history. The desert that once demanded survival had given birth to a civilization that taught the world how to thrive. The legacy of the Arab people, of commerce, scholarship, and culture, would echo across centuries, a timeless reminder that humanity's greatest achievements are born from knowledge, connection, and the courage to explore beyond the horizon.